We are at it today. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's the good time of day. We are back at it again today. This is another beautiful day. My migraines are not kicking in today. It has been a lovely day, and we are talking about something. Give me 1 minute here. I am having a double. Give me 1 minute here. I am having a double. Give me 1 minute here. I am having a double. Give me 1 minute here. I am having a double. 1 minute here. I am having a double. We have to get rid of all these other streams and feeds that were up. In any event, we are back at it again today. We are talking about the subject that is burning the internet up, the slab heard around the world. I'm calling it the slab heard from King Coward himself, Will Smith. And I'm just going to jump right into it because I'm not going to sit up here. I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm not going to sit down and approach it as if it's something that I have another take on. Essentially, here's my take, and I know that there's been quite a few that's been out there guilty and everything else that's been out there. Uh, what I'm looking at in this situation, what I'm looking at with this whole situation with Will Smith, is the fact that essentially, what we have is a situation where Will Smith bullied someone else, and I apologize for that transition there. And I am not a fan of bullies, and that as a and ultimately that's what it comes down to for me is that Will Smith is definitively 100% unequivocally being a bully in this situation. Why am I going to go with Will Smith as being a bully? Why is it that I feel that Will Smith is being a bully in this situation? Well, let's just hop into it. So, I'm going to base it off of several different things, several different instances on why Will Smith is a bully in this situation and he acted extremely cowardly in this situation with Chris Rock. And let's just hop into it. I guess the first thing, and if you watch the initial little teaser I put out earlier today, uh, just a few hours before we went live here, the primary issue that I have, one, when I'm getting into why he's being a bully, one of the primary issues here is going to be the fact that Will Smith was at the Oscars receiving an award. Chris Rock is presenting. Chris Rock is a comedian. I think about Ricky Gervais and some of the really controversial things that he said. I think about some of the really heinous things that he said during his time of hosting the Oscars. And granted, Chris wasn't hosting the Oscars. Chris Rock was sitting there specifically. He was just giving a presentation for a particular award. And being the comedian that he is, being a comedian and coming in there and just playing with the room, making jokes, we now have this overly sensitive white knight behavior where individuals as a it's let me come back to that, but it's this overly sensitive behavior by people like Will Smith at this point. Give me 1 second here. Let me bring up my boy Westradamus. How you feeling today, Westradamus?
Oh man, I'm doing well. I'm not in a well-lit area. I'm actually at
No
a
worries.
baseball game.
No worries, no worries, no worries.
So,
Yeah, I say today. I just want to say I don't know if you've seen the initial little teaser I put out earlier on
oh,
my
I loved it. I
uh, uh,
loved it.
on it's my take on this because I'm looking at it, and for me, essentially it's Will Smith being a bully, right? This as a, and the reason why I'm saying is Will Smith being a bully is specifically this, and let me just lay it out. I'll lay it out for you, and I'll let you sit there and tee it off for me and tell me either where I'm right or wrong at on this situation. But I'm looking at it. One, Chris Rock, he's a comedian. He's out there. He's being a presenter. You go to these type of things. I think of Shaquille O'Neal being the 7-footer that he is. He holds these comedy shows that he has out there, and you have a little 5 foot whatever Kevin Hart out there, always poking fun of him, making fun. He's out there, he's working the crowd or whatnot, and that's part of being a comedian. That's part of as a they bring you on. As a Chris Rock is doing his job. He's being a comedian. He's making fun, and it's has a she's upset, and I know everybody's trying to white knight it like he was protecting his woman, and the second part of that is the only person he's willing to protect his woman from is this comedian that he knows is not going to hit back. Chris Rock has talked about on multiple occasions how he used to get robbed when he would go back to his hometown there in Brooklyn, how he would get punked a lot. And everybody, and I'm sure that if I'm hearing all of these things as somebody who is as you know, outside of the that sphere, I know that Will Smith know it. So 50 Curtis has a 50 cents Curtis Jackson. He sat there. He gave him a fuck you in a text message once, but he would never sit there and go think about putting hands on Curtis Jackson, right? I guarantee if it was Faison Love up there who was presenting, if he ever got invited to the Oscars, I guarantee you Will Smith ain't gone up there to go tee off on Faison Love or an Eddie Griffin or someone else that he knows is going to fight back, right? And initially he's even laughing at the joke, and then after laughing at it, you see Jada, she rolled her eyes and she's sick her dog on him, like almost like this Tupac would do X or Y or whatever, and he went up there trying to redeem his manhood. And I'm like, why would you pick Chris Rock, who's out there just doing his job, as the person that you want to go redeem your manhood on? For me, I looked at it, I was just disgusted when I watched it. I was like, there's been a plenty of why not August Alsina, right? I mean, he's the one, even if you're in an open relationship, he's the one who broke your trust, right? You guys pulled him into your family or to this little love triangle that you guys have, this entanglement, whatever it is, the hell that they want to call it. And then at the end of it, you ain't got no hands for him. The only person you have hands for is a guy who's going to sit there and not hit back. And that's why for me, it's really I was sickened by it, but let me get your take on it.
Well, I have a couple takes on this. Man, I don't know where to begin. What are they calling this? Emasculated, entangled man syndrome. No, old folks always say love will make you do stupid things. No, the relationship is an open relationship, but it's not open for jokes.
I like that one.
There are so many angles on this. First is like my conspiracy mind. First thing I'm thinking that this is planned clearly.
Yeah.
This is the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows that, hey, I'm not coming to the Oscars unless you're telling me I'm winning this award. So I think some of that happened. And then when you look at Chris Rock, I watch Slap Fight a lot. And, when you see it, you can see that this Will Smith pulled his slap. Chris Rock, he tucked his chin, he braced for it, so he knew it was coming. They made eye contact, so he knew it was coming. You already know these people are actors for a living, because the Academy does not allow any kind of violence at any time, right? But you did not kick him out. There was no charges. He wasn't arrested, and then later on, he won an Oscar, right? So that's the first thing. It's like, okay, it's fake. The second thing, I'm looking at it relationship wise, and this thing always rings true. Is whenever the man looks weak in the relationship, their relationship will always fail. This is supposed to be the crowning moment of Will Smith's life. 30 years in acting.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he gets that Oscar. Finally, he gets to join Denzel Washington. Finally. But now it gets attached to the slap.
Yeah,
Why exactly. The slap is being talked more about him, so go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing with what you're talking about. For me, when I watched it, the initial place I went to is that I, like you, I'm not sure if it's real or not. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at it, and I watched initially on how all this went down, and like you, I'm like, okay, so the only time that there's ever been a physical altercation at this Academy Award is going to be two brothers fighting, or not even fighting, but it's going to be a black man who's going to sit there and assaulting another black man on this stage, making it okay, right? Because we have this thing where we make certain things cool. Like once we do it, it's okay to do it, right? So before they've had people like Ricky Gervais and everybody up there, and then it's like, because I went in my head, I'm going, he wouldn't do that with Tom Hanks. He wouldn't do
No,
that
he
with
wouldn't.
face, right? If any of those guys made that kind of comment about him, he's not walking up there to go slap him in their mouth. Has a because he knows he would have been he would have been blackballed out of the business at that point. And he knows that, right? The person that he can do that to, or that they'll allow you, kind of like how they always encourage black men to wear dresses on as a once you start making it, you got to sit there and wear a dress at some point, right? And as I watch it, I'm like, okay, so this is the first time this ever happened. It's the only time it's ever happened. And then it's like looking at the timing of it. I'm I'm looking now at other things that are going on in the news that are now going to get pushed down, right? Because right now everybody's talking about, myself included, right? We're sitting here, we're talking about this slap heard around the world, as they call it, right? And so we're not focusing on whether it's wars or other altercations that are happening other places in the world. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on this thing that's going on right now, and then also the way like we talk about our image as black men.
Agreed.
One of those things where when we talk about selling in our image, and like I said, you got Will Smith being a bully towards Chris Rock, and we're making it okay. And just watching just how emasculated if you don't.
It's just a woman. I believe it's just the woman because you know who wears the pants relationship. Because after he did that, he was crying.
Yeah.
He was crying afterwards because he already knows that, hey, what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else, a man can do because he's been dragged for the past 2 years. And then now, oh, here it comes. I have some courage now. That this is my moment. And then here, let me come slap this guy, and it perpetuates, black on black violence.
Correct.
It perpetuates the reversal of gender roles now. Because hey, it was funny, the joke was funny, it was clean. Because you go to the Oscars, that's what they do. It is a roast session,
Yeah,
and it has been a roast session. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I'm agreeing exactly with what you're saying because this is not what happened here was nothing new. I'm gonna play a part of this clip here real fast if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because here's where Chris Rock so he makes this joke, and I'm gonna, whether you feel it's in good taste or bad taste, I found it very interesting watching.
It's like, please, Lord, Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right.
And you watch Will, he's laughing, and you look at Jada, she's gonna give her a little eye roll, and she like no sells it. Will sitting up there, he's laughing. And then Chris Rock like, come on, he's like,
that was a nice one. Okay, I'm out here. Uh-oh.
So it's like, okay, so now so it's like a bad set. Okay, so he's getting ready to present. I'm watching Will initially laugh at it, and you watch Jada, she gives her a little eye roll. She probably we don't get to see it at this point. She's probably nudging him like, oh, that's funny. It's almost like Tupac would have never did that. Whatever the line was to emasculate him even more. And now he's sitting up there gonna have black on black violence or maybe she was like, okay, now's your time. Go ahead. And I'm looking at him like,
queued him up. Yeah.
It has here's your cue. They told you you're gonna have to go out there and go do something. Nobody stops him from getting on stage. Nobody sit there and I'm watching, like you said, this was also interesting to me when I'm watching Chris Rock. I'm watching his facial when Will walks up to him, his hands behind his back the entire time, and he
Richard
sticks his face out, right? And gets smacked in the face. So as I'm sitting here with you, I forward, backward, forward. I watched this multiple times, and I'm like, I'm not sure if it's being knowing pro wrestling. I'm like, I'm not sure if that's real or not.
WWE.
Yeah, and I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, well, there's
because you see the person walking to you, and when you see somebody walking to you, all right, as a man, okay, you are invading this space. This imaginary personal space bubble, and you see somebody breaking that space. Therefore, you already know something's about to go down. That's just the law of the jungle between men. Now you break that bubble, and now let me go back to Dave Chappelle and Charlie Murphy, rest in peace. What, Pap? I challenge you to a duel. Okay, you don't slap a man. There has to be a gunfight after that. Somebody has to die. like what happened? I challenge you to a duel. You know, like after that, normally, back in the day, a duel has to happen. Somebody has to go.
It's like open hand in the mouth. Yes, that as a you have treated me like I am no longer a man.
Exactly. Somebody has to go, and nobody went. And then after that, when he sat back down, then I'm surprised that Chris Rock didn't hit him. It's like, okay, I'll keep your wife's name out my mouth only in the month of August. You know, like I would have kept it going. I would have kept it going on him.
Well, that's what he said after he said, "Ooh, I could." I'm like, then do it. This is my head, but I'm like, Chris Rock has proven time and time again, or has stated time and time again that he's not that dude. And everybody knows. It's kind of like I remember one time I was listening to Benny Siegel because I was thinking about other Philadelphia people out there. But Benny Siegel talk about Kanye's not that dude, but everybody knows you don't mess with Kanye because of who Kanye's around, right? Like such people like Benny Siegel. Chris Rock doesn't have those type of people around him, but I guarantee you, like Will Smith is not walking on stage to slap Dave Chappelle. He's not walking on stage to go slap any other comedian. The only person he's going to slap, the only other one he might slap might be a Kevin Hart. That might be.
I don't think that. I don't even think that.
That's
it had to be agreed. Right. It just had to be agreed because there's no other way that this will happen. And then plus with Jada, Jada, didn't she like a couple years back? Didn't she run like the Oscars so white hashtag? Right?
She sure did. This was the other part of my conspiracy deal with this was the fact that at this point the people who now are involved in the further degradation of Black people are going to be the people who led or were at the forefront of the Oscars hashtag Oscars so white, right? So now the people who are going to be there to come on board to the Oscars after they've been talking about boycotting it and Oscars so white is going to be Will and Jada. And I find that extremely interesting that they're also the ones that would lead the charge of Black on Black crime, or a Black man assaulting a bigger Black man assaulting another smaller Black man. And now that we've done it to each other on this biggest stage of all acting awards that they have, now I think that they're going to not only continue this, now the precedence has been set for disrespect. Hey, you guys disrespect yourselves on the biggest stage here. We can continue to do the work that you guys have already started. You guys have now made it cool. And like I said, I'm also thinking about what else is going on in the world right now that we're not paying attention to.
Real quick, let me just say this. 10 years ago, Will Smith was on top of the world. And I believe this is like a targeted attack on all of all the African American heroes of the 90s, 80s and 90s. And it's all about taking that down. First, Bill Cosby, O.J. Simpson, Bill Cosby, everybody who showed a positive family, they're being taken down. And the last one that we had, or one of the last ones that we have, of course, Denzel, he's one of them. I think Denzel is one of the last ones, was Will Smith. A box office draw. You can binge watch on Netflix, Hulu, or whatever your streaming service, weeks and months off his movies, because all his movies have been very well and has done very well in the box office. And then plus with his music, matter of fact, even how this man even pulled himself out of debt, because remember, he only got into acting because he was in debt. And DJ Jazzy Jeff said, "Hey, why don't you do this Fresh Prince of Bel-Air thing?" And that's how he got into acting. And then he pulled himself out of debt and became a multimillionaire before the age of 25. And just to see this man pull himself by the bootstraps and make his money, and then in the mid 2000s, he was the pinnacle of being a great family. People looked up to Will Smith.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And Jada.
Yeah,
But
they relationship goals was what people used to talk about with Will and Jada.
yeah, facts. And then now you see how now your woman or the woman that you choose can have you destroy everything that you own. He didn't have this, and I understand people's sentiment talking about, hey, he did the right thing. Even the son said, hey, that's how we do it on Twitter and things like that. But the problem is you can't have honor whenever you're a swinger. You just can't.
As in, that's like I said, even then, like I said, out of everybody that you're gonna be mad at, so you brought this this August Alsina person in there into your group. Let's say that Will is out there banging other girls. As they like Jada is. I don't know what their arrangement is, right? The entanglements, as they like to, as she likes to sit there and say, where she put him on her red table talk, brought him in and had him sit there crying at the red table talk, talking about how she sit there getting banged, getting like holed out by August Alsina, and nobody and instead of saying anything there, like why didn't you have any smoke for that dude who broke whatever? I've seen swinging couples,
Yeah.
and they'll
He
keep
made a song. He made a song about it. He made a song, and that song slaps.
The only reason I'm laughing, I'm thinking about an old and living color skit where it's like, I made a song about it, like here it go. I shouldn't laugh, but but I'm looking at that, and that is just it's horrible. And I thank you very much, Sunday. But I'm looking at that whole situation, and it's like, if that's what your relationship is, why is it that you wait until the Oscars and the only person you're gonna put your hands on is a guy that everybody knows? If I know it, everybody knows it, that he's not putting his hands on anybody else. All right. Good. Thank you very much, Sunday. Thank you very much for that. I remember. But yeah, he was like I said, he was box office, or he is box office.
He is box office.
But
bigger than The Rock.
Yeah, and they make sure that they tear us down, right? I mean, I'm really curious as to what's coming up next. I really am.
Man, you already know what's coming up next, but at the end of the day, just love makes you do stupid things. And he did that because he still loved Jada. And there's nothing wrong with the act itself. It's just when you put the act in the chronological order from that red table talk till now, that's where all the things become problematic. And that's where the issues come in, where it's like, okay, nothing against August. All right, nothing, even on that entanglement thing. Like, why do you not flip over a table? You say, oh, just an entanglement, and that's it. And it looked like he was about to cry there. Like there wasn't nothing there. There wasn't like a publicist came out and at least release a statement, anything of that sort. It was nothing. And then now it culminates to this. It's one of your crowning moments. It's 30 years in acting. Most people don't even get to this. Think about a lot of great actors. They don't get the Oscar. Not like this, okay? And then whenever you get it, it's going to be tarnished. Like forever. It's like, hey, whenever Will Smith won the Oscar for King Richard, he slapping another man is going to be more remembered than him winning that Oscar for King Richard.
And think about who he won the Oscar representing. This is the other part about it for me, that the culmination of it. He's representing Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena Williams, right? So here he is representing good on you, 7 Mile Awesome Dre. Good to have you on board. But here you have a black man as a winning an award for an Oscar for representing a strong black father. And the thing that he does on the show is that then he comes back out and he acts like a coon. And I shouldn't say it like that, but that was the way that it's like,
That's some strong language.
yeah, has a, but I'm looking at the thing that they has a, this is what you're gonna remember. Shout out to the lady in the chat. Yeah, as a, that is going to be Miss Sunday that you're referring to. As a shout out to Miss Sunday. But as a, but that's the thing that bothers me the most, or I shouldn't even say it bothers me the most, but there's all the symbolism on top of it, because like you said, what's going to be remembered? It's not going to be that Will Smith won an Oscar for representing a strong black male, a strong black father that helped his daughters to catapult them to where they are. That's not what he's going to be remembered for. It's going to be remembered because Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. And when I look at it, for me, that is the epitome of what, as a, when I put my conspiracy cap on, that's where my, as a, that's one of the, there's so many different aspects of that where my conspiracy cap goes on, where I'm not totally believing that it was real. And even if it is real, I'm like, the thing, like I said, I don't even think it was Chris Rock's joke that set him off. That might be the straw that broke the camel's back, but I'm looking at all the times that he's been emasculated by his wife, by Jada. And it's did you see the video I did on this? I did not get to see it. I say it just came out today. I say, and I will be watching that. I say, just like I did your other videos, but I will definitely be watching that one today. I've been out all day, but I will definitely take a look at that 7 Mile Awesome Dre. As a matter of fact, I have it queued up. I can show it to you right now that I do have that queued up, so it is ready to go. And let's look at this next comment as well. Hey, 7 Mile. Okay, that is Sunday saying hi to you there, 7 Mile Awesome Dre. But yeah, it's interesting for me watching this whole ordeal, as everybody they're as a, I don't think, as a, if it is real, it's not just a Chris Rock joke, but it's just a cowardly way that he did it with the with Chris Rock there, the way that he did it. That was cowardly. My pleasure, man. I like SV support. I say this brother has to thank you very much, Awesome Dre. Yeah, as a, I don't know, man. I just, as a, I'm looking at it and it's not making sense to me at all. Not at all. Because it's like,
it's not making sense to me at all. Like 2 and 2 is not equaling 4 here. It's equaling like 25. And man, just it just couldn't. Like to me, it just can't be real because of if somebody's because he's a comedian, he's at a venue that is known for making jokes, known for roasting people. She laughed. I mean, he laughed. Then she just looked. Okay, so is there some type of backstage politics we weren't privy to, or what's going on here?
I don't know if it's backstage politics as a. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't know. I think there is some backstage politics. If it's not real, there's definitively some backstage politics that's going on here. Like I said, the fact that he was able to come up on stage, and I'm like I said, Kanye West always talks about how he knew he was going to get the certain awards before he went in there. That was why he was upset about certain performances. He said because everybody knows who's getting the awards, or if you're getting the award, you know beforehand. Dave Chappelle talked about it when he got the Mark Twain Award. I'm trying to remember who was the comedian. I just had it off the top of my head. I'm missing the name now. God dog, I wish I should have wrote that down. But there was a comedian who Dave Chappelle's like, hey, you want to hang out this week? He's like, oh, I'm gonna head back. He's like, look, he says, let me tell you, he says, this is not known. Nobody else knows this, but I'm gonna be getting the Mark Twain Award this week. As I would really appreciate it if you were there. And this was a story that came out for Dave Chappelle with the Mark Twain Award, right? So, and then I think about, what was that the movie that Moonlight was that movie that won the Oscar for Best Picture, and they announced the wrong one, and the people for the Oscars came out, corrected them, because the people from Moonlight looked like they were ready to go on up there. They had to sit down like, oh, I guess we didn't win it, like they were told. Then they had to correct it, and those guys came on up. So it's like you watch all these different things. You know that the people who are going to win the awards know who's going to win those awards beforehand, or all the evidence says that, right? The evidence shows you that they know beforehand.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if he knows beforehand that that's what's going to happen, then it's one of those situations that as he's going through it, You knew they weren't kicking him off. Not for that. Let's see. Let me read this comment real fast. I hate this. His brothers has a it bothers me too. This is goon behavior. Something I would do. Here's a great question for you brothers. If Will Ferrell or a white comedian told the same joke, would he have hit him? That's the point we were making. I agree with you. I agree with you
Me
wholeheartedly.
too.
Faith was a comedian who was hosting a while back, and he roasted everybody, and everybody was so upset about a lot of stuff he said. Nobody hit him. This is the first time that you've had this level of violence or violence at the Academy Awards. You know that, and my point was earlier that he's not has a Will Smith. Even if this was real, he's not hitting anybody else besides possibly Chris Rock. If this was real, 50 Cent said some things about him and his old lady. He never sat there and took off on 50 Cent. He knows better. There's been a lot. Faison Love talked about him. He's not going to take off on Faison Love. He knows better. Eddie Griffin. Everybody's had jokes about him and Jada in his presence. And the only person that he's going to take off on is going to be Chris Rock. And
on the biggest stage too. On the biggest stage too.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, me putting on my conspiracy hat, I'm with you. I say because it makes no sense that at all the rest of the times Will Smith is able to keep himself contained, and today, like you said, this is disgraceful as a black man. I agree with you. I say because it does on the biggest stage. This is where Will Smith he decides that he is gonna finally stand up for Jada Pinkett Smith, right? And I'm looking at it like it's not even finally standing up. I mean, at what? Oh hell! And for a penny, and for a pound, putting my foot in my mouth now. At what point, if you're in that type of relationship, if it's an open relationship or a relationship, anything along those lines, that you know that that's what it is, right? You and your spouse, you and your significant other, however you want to frame that, you and that individual have determined that you guys are going to have other people in your relationship. And as you have these other individuals that are in that relationship, the one of the people that you bring in there has now violated the trust of the couple, right? You can't now go like, oh, now I'm mad as a how we always talk about the old couples, where it's like just as long as you don't violate the trust, you don't bring home any diseases and no extra babies, then everything was copacetic. Don't bring that crap back home when you're doing this stuff where they were running dirt out in the street. Here it is. Now that he's bringing that dirt back. She brought the dirt back home.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason why I say whenever the man looks weak in a relationship, that's when the relationship is over. There's no reason why this man has been publicly shamed, publicly emasculated. It's like that. It's fine. It's like that. That kid who is like, yeah, I'm man enough. But when he sees somebody with a bigger stick, he doesn't want to step to. And then when he sees somebody's unarmed, on anything, now he wants to come up to him and start beating up on the person. So just like what you said earlier, it's just a bully tactic. And I think that's kind of out of character for him because we've been watching Will Smith for over 30 years. From Freshman to Bel Air to now, from his albums and things like that. This is just not his character. Matter of fact, he made all his albums without cursing. Yeah. So for him just to say, hey, keep my wife's name out your mouth, a couple times with an expletive there.
Yeah.
It's out of character for him.
It is.
It's not him, or it's not the face that he has shown us for the past 30 years that he's been in front of that camera. Even with his movies, it's just not him.
No.
So every time like in his movies, it seems like he's a family protector, and just as a man, just in man code, like disrespect is rule number one in most men's rules. Like, hey, rule number one, respect me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get disrespected and you continue to be disrespected and publicly disrespected, because at Red Table Talk, okay, what does Jada really even talk about outside of Will Smith?
Nothing.
No, exactly. So so pretty much she really doesn't have a life outside of him. Jada Pinkett, she is like a D-list actress. She's name one leading role that she had where you're like, wow, she actually really did that. No, she always been a supporting actress.
That's it.
You
That's all.
know,
Well, that's been her career this entire time. She's attached herself or been attached to a lot of strong leads, a lot of big, strong male leads, whether it's Tupac or anything along that from that point going to now with Will Smith. She's been able to be attached to some pretty big, pretty powerful people. So I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't get it at this point. This is I shouldn't say I don't get it. It's a continued breakdown of the black man and the black community. Is what is this assault on our community and the ability for us to make cool, to continue denigrating ourselves. I just people were like, well, that's how we do. And I watched all these athletes right after he did it, and they were like, oh, this, that, and the thing. I'm like, the dude was doing his job. Thing one. Thing two, out of everybody that you're gonna sit there, you're gonna stick up to, now it's gonna be Chris Rock out of all the comedians, out of everybody who's had any smoke for you, this is gonna be who it is.
facts. That's facts. Man, I just can't get my head around. Yeah, I just can't get my head around this. I really can't. The media has a great distraction tool, and this was a great distraction tool. So right now, I'm going to be scouring any other news that they're trying to slip in. If it's Carolina 19, or is it the war is about to go on, or Biden's gaffes. Like I'm really going to be looking to just the menial news where they're trying to sweep under, because this is a great distraction, and this might be something where this might be like a career redefiner for Will Smith, and at the end of the day, it seems like Jada, in she was actually in competition with Will Smith, and actually was envious of what he actually has accomplished, and so therefore she's helping him actually ruining his legacy here, because it seems like everybody looked up to Will Smith pre 2018, it just now it just looked like now the whole thing about Will Smith ever since 2018, he's just been going downhill. Look like he's been a mental case, and which that is not the case.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm gonna pull up one of our guests here. I say we have one of the commenters here. We have 7 Mile Awesome Dre. I want to get your comments on this as well. Do you think this was called for? You think this is actual? What do you think about this situation with Will Smith today, or yesterday rather?
Yes, very, 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 very sad. Very sad for me as a black man. Shout out to Savior Black. Shout out to Westradamus. I'll tell you, brothers. I actually saw this live. I actually was watching the Oscars, and when I saw it, I thought it was a skit, kind of like everybody else. I had no idea that it was even real. And it wasn't until the language started to get blurred out that I recognized, like, okay, wait a minute, something is really happening here. And as I sit back and as I was able to analyze it, as we all know, we have an extreme problem with our image as a whole as black men. But as a man who has been to prison 3 times, as a man who's been involved in goonish behavior, it's actually what's the word? It's calculated for. It's actually anticipated, because this was the life that I lived, and this is how these things go. And when you have black men who are professional brothers, who actually I look to. First of all, let me say this: I don't glorify stars or anything like that. When you see black men who are in those positions, and you like, okay, these brothers did things the correct way, and then you can look at them and see, you can aspire to be something more than what you have done. For you to see that you behave like I would under us, because I'm gonna be honest with you, that's something I would have done. Yeah. Truth be told, I would have, but for different circumstances, not to protect the woman. I don't believe her virtue is worth protecting, but that's a whole nother conversation. I'm just being honest. I don't believe
I hear you.
that she deserves what she was not warranted, and especially for the joke, he didn't speak about his extramarital affairs. He didn't speak about his son being an alternative lifestyle, or he didn't go to August. He made a joke, and I thought that it was extremely. I thought he took it too far, and like I said, he like you said, he picked the right one. So that would be my take, kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That the whole thing with him picking Chris Rock out of everybody that he could have picked on, out of everybody, because I remember Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, sat there talking about that, and then he sat there and he said, "No, fuck you," in a text message. That was the extent of his interaction with 50 Cent. I think about all the other comedians that have made jokes about Will and Jada around Will Smith. And the only one is because Chris Rock has that show where it's like everybody hates Chris. I don't know if you've listened to Chris Rock for a long time, but he's made jokes about how else how much of a square he is, that he wouldn't sit there and would not, strike back. He got punked in his old neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Yes.
He talks about all of these things. So everybody, if I know this and I'm watching it, I guarantee you that everybody else in there that was watching that, or I shouldn't say everybody in the industry, Will Smith specifically being in that industry, knows exactly the type of person that Chris Rock is, that he's not going to strike back. Because you know that if it was Dave Chappelle doing it, he's not doing that. If Dave Chappelle makes a joke about Jada Pinkett's alopecia and her hair loss, whatever it is that somebody's making a joke on, and like I said, it was a very softball joke, because he was like, "Come on now," that's it. Like, he didn't sit there and go in about, that's going to hurt till. He didn't say anything about August Alsina. He didn't say anything about the entanglement. He said nothing. He just made a joke about G.I. Jane, and then Will Smith's up there and just that's the sign to me that there's something else either going on there with Will Smith, like you said, because for the longest time that has not been his MO. That has not been what you're looking at whenever you said that. He's been the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. All of his rap music back in the day, you had Summertime, you had Parents Just Don't Understand, you had all this type of stuff. It was never hardcore, whatever it was that he was doing. It was and now all of a sudden, this is going to be the night that he gets an award for representing a strong black male. The only thing that we're going to remember about this whole situation is not the fact that Will Smith won an award for being King Richard Williams, who helped his two daughters, Venus and Serena, to catapult them to the stardom that they had. We're not going to know it for that. We're going to know it because one black man assaulted another. The first time that you've ever had a physical altercation at the Oscars or at this type of award show, and it's between two black males on stage, and one who's at the pinnacle, bigger than The Rock, as Western Dramas highlighted. And now you have that situation, and it's sad. It's really, really, really sad. And like I agree with West Dramas. My tinfoil hat sometimes is on, and it's on this one as well. But if this is real, it's cowardly to me, because who he picked, and he picked on a dude for doing his job, and I'm like, really? And he's, and everybody's like, "Oh, good." I'm like,
Hey, Savior Black, we couldn't be more aligned in thinking in regards to this. And I'll take you as a white collar brother who has who has achieved academic success and done things the correct way. I'll take you behind the scenes in the prison. Okay,
okay.
I'm gonna roll the curtain back. There's a thing that used to happen in there that we would call picking a false fight. Okay, so basically what would happen is you don't like a guy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now he did let's just say for a minute, he cut in front of you in the line 2 days ago, but you didn't really want to deal with him because there could have been a situation that had other people involved. So what you do is you wait until an opportune time in order to do what you really wanted to do. It's basically, so in order to justify your buffoonish behavior, you do something and under the guise of a principle, which in truth of matter, there was no principle in this at all. And I'm a man who believes in principle, SB.
Right.
I don't know, you don't know me, but these
I'm
things
not.
matter to me. Principle and standards and character matters to me. and black masculinity matters to me. And so when I see things like this and I see all of a sudden then you run to say, you were running to defend your wife's honor and a bunch of morons, who got more education. I got a GED, SB, but I can see through this garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man, miss me with this BS.
I agree.
This had nothing to do with principle. This was a man who has been through some things as all black men do. And, clearly he chose that moment in order to respond. And you know what I'm saying? And it was out of line. It was uncalled for. And anybody justifying that is a fool, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I haven't been behind bars or anything along those lines, but growing up, well, the closest I ever came, well, that's not even close. Back when I was in elementary, I don't know. I guess I will be telling that story right now. All right,
okay.
so
all right, tell it that.
it's a long
tell
time
on yourself.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to tell on myself. But back when I was a lot younger, growing up, I almost got expelled out of elementary school for trying to stab a boy. Right.
Okay.
And it was a situation where, like you're talking about, I didn't want to be that dude that Chris Rock is, right? Where everybody knows they're gonna if he takes it, everybody knows that this is the dude. So you don't want to be that dude. And me and this young man, we sat there, we fought. I whipped him up. That was it, right? I thought that was it. So he tells me that he's gonna sit there and bring his big brother in the next week or the next day or whatever. Sit there and come settle this with me, and I'm like, whoa. He and I, he's like, no. So I went and I talked to my cousin. I'm like, hey, cuz, can you come to the school with me tomorrow? I got this dude. He's bringing his brother. His brother's in middle school, right? I'm in elementary. I'm thinking middle school, and I'm bringing my cousin who's just did a stint. He did a bid. He's like, nah, I can't, folks. I can't get on it. Hey, look, I gotta go see my PO. I can't get. He said, you still got that blade that Unc gave you? And I'm like, yeah. I got that. He said, bring it on over here. Let me show you something, right? So he tells me on what I'm gonna end up sticking old boy, twisting it and pulling it, right? And I'm sitting there, okay, I'm practicing on this. He's showing me how I need to do this. Next day I go to school, and it's me and a friend of mine who has ironically, middle class. I grew up middle class, but the crack house was 2 doors down. And one of my best friends, he lived in the crack house. So we sat there, we went to school, we talked about it or whatever. He was like, well, just call me when it happened. Da, 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 da. So it was close to after school. Old boy came with his brother. And I called myself, sit there like I was gonna stick. I say anyway, it escalated and de-escalated. Nobody got stuck, nothing like that. And so we getting ready to walk on out of school with the blade, and that was when I got caught with it and how I almost got expelled. But anyway, that was because I didn't want to be the Chris Rock dude that everybody knows. Okay, only thing I do, like you said, I can come up with a false reason. I'm gonna sit there and take him for whatever. I'm gonna do this to him, and I'm gonna take him for whatever. And I didn't want to be that dude. You have to figure out, okay, if I'm small, I've always been a smaller dude. It's like other ways on how I'm gonna have to get these dudes off me. And that was one of them. But I think that everybody in the industry knows that Chris Rock is that dude. If you are gonna find somebody to do that with, is Chris Rock. And I just find it sad. Like you said, here we are as brothers, and you got somebody sitting up there screwing the image up who traditionally has been the person who upheld the image and helped that image to stay high and not to do the things that we watched him do last night, which to me was extremely cowardly. I'll be honest with you. The person that you picked to do this with out of everybody out there, that's the problem I have. It's like if I'm being honest, like I said, I've seen doing mediations a lot of different relationship types, including these swinger type. And I can tell you some stories about when I was in the Navy with some of these couples and they're swinging. The person who violated was August Alsina, and he had nothing for that dude, nothing for him. He had something for Chris Rock, and I'm like, for doing this job, you're gonna sit there, you're gonna take off on that dude. I don't that makes no sense to me.
Well said, black man. There is another layer that I think that also I would like I would like your thoughts on, and I'll give you mine. When I when I when I when I'm watching this, or okay, how can I say this? I want to make sure I say this correct. I probably shouldn't say that way. Just I have to think.
Hey, if you're worried about it, don't put it out there like that.
Right. Yeah, that's probably it. That you continue to talk, SB, and I'll continue to mull over how I can approach that.
Yeah.
Because I really want to get a point across.
Yeah, because I'm looking. Because for me, I'm looking when I look at this whole situation. Like I said, the part that really bothers me about this whole thing, and like what I was talking about with Westradamus a minute ago, I'm gonna have to keep my eye out on what's coming down the pipe as far as news and what has a. And I have to go back and look at what happened yesterday and over the past couple of days that this would have changed the narrative because whether we like it or not, this changed this changed that news cycle from whatever it is we were talking about, whether it's the war, whether it was the assault on black people that Ukrainians were doing, whether it's Ukrainians coming into the United States and getting various opportunities that black people who have been here this entire time are not getting. We're no longer talking about that. What we're talking about today is Will Smith, a black man, assaulting another black man. And I'm trying to figure out what else is there in that news cycle that got suppressed by this. This is one of the things that me and Westradamus we were talking about. We talked about it before offline, and we're talking about it now, even on the air. There's some things that had to have been suppressed behind this news cycle, that this is now the dominant thing because everybody, I don't care what type of news that they're covering, everybody made sure today they covered this. This is like a trending topic on Twitter. It's a trending topic. A lot of the news agencies I watch that are normally all politics made sure that they covered this today. And
not to cut you off, it made the sports channel. I should let you know that it made ESPN.
It did. I said because I seen who is it? Shannon Sharp. He talked about it today with him and Skip Bayless.
They were making jokes on ESPN last night saying I think whoever the Lakers got smacked like Will Smith smacked Chris Rock, and that was from the brother Stan. I forget his name. Stan something. I forget his name. You know, SB. I'll tell you something. Shout out to Chris Rock. He said I'll never forget something he said. But I didn't. When you're young, you don't really understand. I love black people, but I hate niggas. And you know what I'm saying? And I love black people, but I hate niggas. And we are the only community that glorifies bullshit. We are, I told you I've been to prison 3 times. I got parties twice when I came home. When the last time you got a party for doing the right thing, brother? It just, you know what I'm saying? Our community is so backwards in terms of, but because I was a real dude, I was a stand-up guy and this, that, and the third. And when you think about these things, you thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this brother went to school, did things the correct way. Where does the community, or where is the applause, or where is the accolades and response for this brother? It doesn't
exist. Okay, so I'm older I'm in my 40s, right? I'm almost 50.
How would you, SB?
Yeah. So I remember a time, and I don't know if from where you were growing up, but out there in California, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things that used to happen for me, there was a difference when you had black men, even when the black men who were hustling back in the days, how they treated the young men coming up, right? Yes. So they looked at me, they was like, oh, you're a little smart nigga, right? You don't need to. I remember one time there's been several times when I was getting ready to go someplace where something was getting ready to pop off, right? And as I'm walking down the block, like I'm going down the street that I would normally go, I'm heading towards school or whatever, and I had them old heads sit there, look at me, they go like, go around.
Yes.
And I'm like, go around. They'd be like, go around, young buck.
Yes.
And I'm like, all right. So I would sit there, whatever I knew I had to take that detour because they're gonna make sure that whatever it is they're doing, it does not involve the people, the civilians, or the other individuals, right?
Yes, sir.
I had D-boys that would sit there, and I'm sit there like, oh well, I might. They're like, nah, this ain't for you, right? They would tell you that, like, this ain't for you. That's if you need something, you come let me know. We'll see what I can do in order to help you, right? And that thought process and that ability, even as with hustlers or whatnot, back in the day of trying to take care of the community. And I look at the skill set that they have, because I'll be honest with you, I feel that hustler skill set is an entrepreneur skill set. But you had these individuals that were doing things like you talking about things that you knew that weren't right, but they made sure it's like, oh, I had several friends is like who play sports, and he was like, he wants to sit there and try and make some money. He's gonna sit there and try and hustle, and they're like, nah, you don't do that. I say, you need something, you need sneakers, you need whatever, you come, let me know. But you don't come here. Say, this is not, you got something ahead of you. This is not what you do, right? And you had those brothers that would do that, and then they end up getting sent up. And I don't know where that mindset went towards today. I have no idea, because that even when people were doing like doing the things that we call weren't right, were wrong, they were people who were in the community that were doing that hustling that actually still, and that was my experience. I don't know if that was the same on you for where you were at.
Mhm. Well said. Actually, I jumped off in the streets. I initially started selling weed for my sister ex-boyfriend Ty when I was about like maybe 12. But I had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, kind of like you say, SB. It's one of those things that you either have or you don't. I remember going to elementary school, and I was smart enough to take penny candy and recognize that you know what I'm saying. If I take $1 and I get 100 pieces, I can go back to school and I can sell it and make $2 or $3. And so, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit is kind of something that I was, that kind of was just in me. And what happened is then it started to develop, and I started to, obviously start to sell illegal drugs, and that's what kind of started my life of crime. I remember being involved in things. I remember stealing out of Woolworths. A lot of people don't remember Woolworths.
I remember.
I was trying to steal a He-Man action figure, and they locked me in the I'll never forget it. And I was and they actually locked me downstairs, and I had to be about maybe 5 or 6. But that would have detoured most children. But I just think I was just I was hard head in the sense of you had to show me, and you had to continuously show me. But what I've learned now is that yes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, SB. Wise man learns from the mistakes of others. You know what I'm saying? So the last thing, and that's why it's so important for I think us as black men to build a coalition. There has to be from street, and that's why I always tell you, brother. What do I say on my channel? Shout out to all you brothers, white collar brothers, blue collar brothers, street niggas. You know what it is, because I believe that it takes a coalition of black men who are of like mindedness to say, you know what, something has to change. Because if we don't, we just simply won't have a community, and that's just the bottom line.
Well, I think this has been an attack on the community. I'm going to read Sunday's comment here. She says, I believe that this was staged and it has a deeper meaning than what we are privy to. I agree with you there, Sunday. Why stand up now? It's not adding up. He chose the right person to express his aggression to. I agree with everything that you said. What you're stating, Sunday, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. This whole situation with Will Smith, like I said, it goes further towards breaking down our community, or making cool the breaking down of our community, because this never happened ever before. And like I said, going back to your point on having a community where we're like-minded brothers, we have a lot of great characteristic traits within our community. And there's a lot of people with, like you talking about, whether like the street collar, blue collar, whatever, everybody has what you talked about on turning around that penny candy, what you talked about with going in there that was something that you when you was out there, you was dealing, you looking at it, you're going, okay, how do I make some money? Right. If you were a white kid, they would sit there and put other kind of entrepreneurial endeavors in front of you, and you would have had other paths besides what's put before you as far as with drugs. That would you would have had other things that you could have pursued. Let me put it this way. Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, he was a dropout of Harvard, right? Because he found something, and he had an entrepreneurial spirit, and he went charging full steam. And you look at all these people like Steve Jobs or whatnot who were dropouts because they had that entrepreneurial spirit, and they had another avenue where their parents had 6 figures in order to give them that other avenue to go express that besides just going to college. Right. So there's other things that you could do in order to make that money that's in that entrepreneurial vein that we're within our communities, because of the degradation of our community. And I think it's incidents like this that we had with Will Smith last night, where why are you trying to push this narrative within our community that we're trying you were one of those shining beacons for us in our community to show other things that we could do, whether it was a Bill Cosby, like what you and I know we disagree on that, but
just slightly, not much.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but you have people in our community who can point you in that, or who can provide that good what's the word I'm looking for? And I apologize, I had it and I lost it. The good role model, the good image of black people. But only thing that we get are the bad. If you want to be a rapper or a hip hop artist, Nowadays, there's no more Public Enemies. There's no more KRS-One. There's no more Mos Def. That's not going to get you anywhere. What you want to have, or Will Smith, right? Now, if you're not gangster rap, if you're not talking about WAP, if you're a woman, if you're not sitting there degrading our young ladies, if you're not there degrading young men, saying how much they hustle and how many racks they got, blah 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 blah, and how they went off and they got it illegally. If you're not doing that, then all of a sudden you're not going to sell any albums. They're not going to promote you, right? And when I say they, I mean the industry complex for music. They're not that's not what's getting promoted. Only killing black men, degrading black women, doing wrong illicit things. That's what's going to get pushed out there. And I like to going back to Sunday and with this whole Will Smith thing. I agree. I mean, this does not. It just doesn't feel right. For me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, there has to be something else here. There has to be something else here.
I never saw it that way, SB. And I'm glad that the sister shout out to Sunday and you actually, because that gives me something else to kick around in this peanut brain of mine, because I never thought it was staged when I first saw it. I just thought it wasn't real. But now that she brings up the point that it was staged and it has a deeper meaning, now that gives me because we all know anything that makes black men look weak, that makes black men look unintelligent, or impulse control, or this SB. What I was doing all the day, and shout out to you, because you love the law. I do now. I spent all day in federal court filing 8. I had 8 defendants from the previous from the jail, and I was literally going through filing all of my summonses on hand. They was trying to do it. I said no. I say it's funny, these court systems work just fine when they mowing down pouring black people, and I'm gonna sit right here and use this system. You damn straight. And so I spent all day going through things and studying things and getting my summons, paying the fees that they told me that they would be waived initially. They told me that they would serve them, but then they switched. I said, listen, don't worry about it. I'm a man who understands hard times. So understand, I never expected it to be easy, no way. But I promise you, I'm too stupid to stop.
That's not stupid. I call it determination, right?
Well, thank you, sir. That's a good one.
That you to determine they're not gonna break it. I'll be honest with you. So I've been in the military. I was in the Navy, but one of the things, like when they get the guys for being on the SEAL teams, one of the things they do with those dudes, the whole purpose of them going through buds is to make sure that they don't quit. That's all. Is weeding out people to make sure they don't quit. They put them through. Don't sleep for about several days straight when they're going through Hell Week. Still sitting there getting wet, getting sandy. Still going out there doing all these exercises without sleep, and going through this whole process to see who's going to quit. You can be physically strong, you can be physically capable, but mentally, are you there? And are you do you have that determination? And what you're showing them is, hey, I got that determination. And after you and we spoke the last time, there's something I'm putting in the works. What we talked about on some of these things that should happen. I think, I don't want to say clog up the system, but I think it's something where the system needs to get exercised. And I'm talking with the street clinic people down here to see if we can get some seminars going together on how to file these things, that if attorneys don't want to file them, or if it doesn't look like it's advantageous to them, here's how you can do it. Here's what the fees are going to be, you can expect, and see if we can sit there and start putting more people in that direction. And so we kind of have some clinics in order to do that. Because like I said, our community, like I said, the first teacher of black men is going to be the woman.
Yes.
And they've done a very efficient job in severing the relationship between black men and black women. Yes. And they have it so that right now, all of us, we're up in arms and we're adversarial with one another, and we don't appreciate the differences between one another and how that adds to the family unit, to make sure that we have strong black kids coming up, to make sure that if we have strong black families, then we have strong black communities. And if we have strong black communities, then we actually start moving forward. And things like what just happened the other night, everything that goes towards our image being degraded, everything that goes towards our families being degraded, everything that goes towards not appreciating men and women, black men and black women within our families, and watching that constant degradation. It's, I don't know, man, I'll be honest with you, it hurts. I'm like you. I love my people, right? Yes. My people that look like me, I love us, right? I grew up. I'm blessed with the parents that I had. They made sure growing up that I love me some me, right? And as far as me, as in black people, right? That they made sure that has a everything about it was as a the books on the bookshelf. I'm gonna get the white books in school, but they made sure at home I got the autobiography of Malcolm X. They made sure at home I got This Is Why We Can't Wait. They made sure that at home, uh, The Invisible Man and all these other things that I get to read at that point that were not a part of the school curriculum or a part of uh, what you taught in school, whether it's by Elijah Muhammad or anything along those lines, like How to Eat to Live. They made sure that that was a part of the library. We had a whole bookshelf that was dedicated and had a bunch of black themed black authors that were there. So it started at a young age, and I'm thankful for the parents that I had that helped me out with that.
Well said. Well said. Shout out to them. SB, let me ask a question. Have you it's actually two-part. I would like you to give me some solutions, or because you seem like a solutions-oriented brother, because I
I am.
have, but I want to hear what you have to say. And but also I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. My apologies.
And also, I am.
Okay.
I'm at this point now in my life where it's like I like the fact that we can talk about it, but
Yeah.
in addition to talking about it, like one of the things I think about, like with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King back in the day, those brothers were about especially when I think about Martin, because everybody that we whitewashed him in history, where everybody goes, they think about him as just nonviolent. That's one thing that they or just marching. And they forget about the fact that he was about not just marching and being nonviolent, but there was direct action. The direct action was you got boycotts. The direct action was we're going to have sit-ins, right? The direct action was we're going to actually do something in order to try and vote and get everybody registered to vote in order to make sure that our voices are heard and
Well
make
said.
so even if you don't agree with the tactics that he used,
Mhm.
he was about the action. And
Okay.
he was about those solutions. Same thing with Malcolm. Same thing when you look at Huey P. Right? These were brothers that when you had the breakfast program with the Black Panthers, that was a solution oriented thing. And so, like as a so I as a that is something I'm trying to take that on as far as being more solution oriented. Yes.
Well said, black man. I would like to know that part. I would like to for you to give some, and then I'll give you mine after. But also would like to ask you, have you seen? Are you familiar with the brother Dr. Juwanza Kunjufu?
Yes. Yes. Most
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, he did a as you know, he did a workshop back in '85, the destruction of black boys, and it's amazing how you fast forward 35 years and we're exactly in the same spot. I watched it periodically here, and he was just so profound. And so the brother's just special. I mean, him and Dr. Cornel West. I'm a fan, and the brother Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. You know, it's funny. Our community, when something Joe Biden respects us so much that when something happens, he goes to talk to Cardi B and Soldier Boy. You don't go talk to them. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. You don't go talk to our leaders and our scholars, the brothers who can really articulate our position, and really get the maximum bang for the buck, so to speak. I mean, it's a joke, but I just
But they, yeah, you're not gonna talk to a Dr. Claude Anderson. You're not gonna talk to a Dr. Rwanda Junk Junk. I always mess up his last name.
Kunjufu.
Yeah, I say I'm gonna let you say it.
Yes,
I screwed his last
Kunjufu.
name up. I say, but because as a matter of fact, he was on a talk show. It wasn't Donnie. I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was him. Huey P. Newton was also on it, and I'm
Yes,
who the other person was. But I remember but I'm old, so.
I saw that.
But I remember that talk show that they had where the three of them were on there, and I was impressed because I went to go watch that one specifically for Huey,
Yes.
and he came off, and I end up my mom she was big on that type of stuff on going because he comes at it from an education standpoint, and we have brother West Radamas is going to be with us as well. He's hit back in let me you give me your question before I get and I want to get brother West Radamas to take us out of here after I get your question.
Oh,
Brother,
me?
yeah. Dre.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that was just, I guess I just wanted to hear some solutions, but I'll tell you mine right off the top. I'm gonna tell you, brothers, what I just believe. the sooner the pain starts, the sooner it'll end. I think we just have to cut a lot of brothers off. I think, and when I say that, we have to be as serious about our community and our image as possible. And if brothers are not, regardless of whatever, listen, man, this is it, because this just can't continue. This buffoonish behavior cannot continue. And me as a guy who's been in the streets, even I know this. So what I'm saying, so if I know this, I know brothers like yourselves are tired of this as well. And with that, I yield to the panel.
Yeah, when you're looking for specific solutions, for me on the legal side, like I said, I want to do workshops going forward within the community. That's one of the things I want to do. Has I use the legal training that I have had in order to make sure that others explaining what happens within the legal system, which is one of the reasons why I like the street clinic program, and also starting to do workshops on brothers and sisters in the community, not just recognizing what their rights are, but exercising those, whether or not you have representation immediately or not, because sometimes you're going to have a situation where it's not financially viable for an attorney that they want to sit there and take a case like that, like especially a 1983 case, right? You don't want to, if it doesn't look like it's going to pay out, they might not want to do it immediately. But if that's the case and you have one that's probably not going to pay out a lot, I would like to see it in the system where even if they're a pro se litigant, start off a pro se. And just because if there's one thing, if the court starts getting a ton of these, there's going to have to be some action that's taken on it. And if we start seeing, the more and more you start looking at escalation of police violence, where they exceed the scope of their mandates, and how violent they are towards us within our community, they're over policing us. I think that if they start getting called to task on it, and if the court systems are getting clogged on it, I think that's one thing that you're going to be able to watch them peel back. And I think it's just understanding how the system works. And then sometimes I hate saying like that, but that's one of those malicious compliance situations, and that's a solution that I'm looking into right now. And then there's some other stuff that I'm looking at as far as financial within the community as well.
For me, like I would think one solution or a part of the solution is legal literacy, especially within the marriage/relationships. What people don't understand about the relationships is all about the traditions you create in your family. And whenever this family does get split up, the man, you will be responsible to carry on these traditions, such as if let's say you're in a traditional marriage and your wife does not work, all right, now since your wife does not work, and now her skill set is now being devalued because she's not working on it, now you have to pay for that, and then pay for the status quo for the kids. Very, very much so. Legal literacy in the relationship aspect is one, so therefore everybody understands what's going on. So whenever you do get to court, you don't get screwed over. At least you know what's going on.
I agree.
The second portion, it becomes to financial literacy, as in can we get the dollar to circulate in the community longer than 6 hours or 4 hours? I think what I read now. I think 4 hours. We need to get the dollar to circulate in our community longer than 4 hours. So we need to stop this consumerism, or do the consumerism with each other.
Pyrrhic victories. That's Awesome. Dre has a video called Pyrrhic Victories. I need to send that to you, Westradamus. I really do need to send that one to you.
Oh, please do. I would love to support another content creator. If we were to just focus just on our families first, because at the end of the day, right now we're a matriarchal system at the moment, and we need to move back to a patriarchal one, because of the patriarchal system. That's where this system that's designed by, or the powers to be actually designed it. They designed it for patriarchy, not matriarchy. Because of women are out earning our men now, and we need to fix that. And then when the women do out earn us, now they don't want to marry down, because they have they understand the system where, hey, if I marry down to a person, I'm gonna have to pay because that's the tradition that I'm creating. So therefore it's gonna be like Mary J. Blige, where she has to pay alimony, and they want to reciprocate. So in essence, just like the Will and Jada thing, just to bring that in, is they're competing against each other.
Well,
And we need to stop that competition.
let me ask this question then, because this is one of the things I've been thinking about, and specifically on my my mediations page, because I have a couple different attorneys that I have there that are going up on that page. But one of the things I'm thinking about doing is I want to get a bunch of family law attorneys that I know and have them all listed and start pushing towards within the community. Same way that we push, go see your pastor, go see your priest, your rabbi, your imam, whoever, before you get married. Go see a family law attorney.
Yes.
Before you get married, go understand, right? It's one thing to say, okay, I understand what marriage is. You understand what the concept of marriage is, right? Within your religious beliefs. What you don't understand is that the moment you get married, all those religious beliefs go out the window, because now you have a legal marriage, which is vastly different than the religious beliefs that you have within marriage. And I think it's important that if you're going to enter into that marital arrangement between a man and a woman, understanding exactly what it is you're getting into. And if you understand what it is that you're getting into legally, there are other vehicles that might be available to you that might not be the legal marriage, but that still gives you the opportunity to have that scriptural, whatever that scripture is, marriage that you need within your family, or those those family traditions that you're talking about building up, right? So keeping because by every metric that's out there, and this is one of the things I one of the reasons why I'm getting ready to start putting that up on my mediation side, is that by every metric that we have out there, specifically even for the black community, but a home without a father fails or is worse in every metric that we're able to measure. So every category that we can measure, every metric that we have, where you can sit there, KPI, key performance indicator, that as a from the business world, everything that we're able to measure shows that the children do worse in single parent homes than they do in a two-parent house, whether it's suicide,
I agree.
where's that chart? I need to pull that chart back up, but there were suicides, there was high school dropouts, just dropping out of school and doing drugs, getting into the penal system. Every metric that they're able to measure, not having a man in the home, everybody was doing measurably worse than the ones that did have a man in the home. Now, why that is, we can talk about that as well. But the fact of the matter is, that is what the stats say. That's what the numbers say. That's what if you're looking at it, okay, if you have and that's from the NIH websites and everything else, when you're looking at those numbers, every metric that we have says that children do better in a two-parent household in this system on how it works than in a single parent household. So
Yes.
I as a trying to be, like I said, solution oriented, like what Dre was talking about, I want to sit there and try and see if we can start putting you on the front end as opposed to the back end, and then all of a sudden everybody's embittered once the relationship ends. The goal here, at least for me, would be the relationship should not end, because not only is it advantageous to the couple, but it's advantageous to the next generation coming up, to our young black men and women coming up. It's advantageous for them, for the community as a whole, to have that family intact. And I think that goes towards understanding what it is that you're getting into, because we get this thing that gets fed to us, and all of a sudden they find out, oh, you don't need to you need to have two people to sit there and agree to get married. You don't need two people to dissolve that relationship. Just one person needs to sit there and say, we're done, right? And if they start subsidizing women to get out of a relationship, then they'll take it. And then if we start weaponizing or monetizing kids, which is another thing that happens, and you can't do anything about that in a prenup, but you start weaponizing the kids as far as monetizing them, where they're worth money in that relationship, all of a sudden the kid's interest goes away as well, where all of a sudden parents start doing things that are just, I can't tell you how many times like in a mediation for a divorce, it breaks my heart every single time I would have to deal with it. It's one of those things I look at, I'm like, we weaponize children. We have monetized them and we weaponized them. and it hurts when I watch the families dissolving and the children are not going to just be broken, but now they're used as weapons and pawns within that divorce proceeding. And I would like to sit there and have that addressed on the front end and not the back end. Um, yeah,
And another thing I do want to add to that is speaking about the nuclear family is we need to get into legislation, get into politics, therefore we can push our agenda, such as trying to I understand with the public assistance and things like that, but that is the other man that's in our house,
mhm,
you know, and we need to understand that when we get into a relationship, she's actually dating two men,
mhm,
not one. The second man she's dating is the government, and then as soon as she sees that the government is offering something better than what we can, she's gonna go out and say, "Hey, I'm living by myself. I got my own house, own car, right?" But she doesn't talk about who's subsidizing that. So we need to eliminate the incentives of that the other man is giving her, so therefore that she can stay home with us. Because of if if we are always if somebody's always saying, "Hey, I have an offer for you," no matter what, they're still gonna it's human psychology say like, hey, you at least see what they have, what's going on, just see what's going on, see what they have to offer.
they listening
And
as well.
yeah, they're always listening to that offer. And no matter what, hey, free food stamps up to $500 a month. All right, and then housing. Okay, all I gotta do is pay 50. All I gotta do is not have a man in the house. All right, even though when other people don't have to have those same rules, of course she's gonna take it. And then after that, it's like, oh, I'm doing this all by myself. I can do bad all by myself. And then number three is we need to reinstitute the elders, the respect for the elders, and allow correction from the elders. You know,
That's big.
Yeah, it is.
and
I agree
because
with you on
because
this
there's
one.
no game being passed down. Like even with me, I don't know with Awesome Dre
Yes, sir.
or yourself
Mhm.
is was any game passed down to y'all? It's like, hey, regarding, hey, marriage, finances, how the system works, how the education system works. I'd like to open that up to the panel. Like, was there any game actually given to y'all?
Do you want to take it first? 'Cause I'll be honest with you. I'm an outlier, so I'll let you take it first, Dre, if you want to.
Okay, absolutely, no problem. Yeah, SB, you back clean up. Yes, that's a great question. I grew up in a two-parent household. I was born in wedlock with both of my parents. And my father, my father was actually a stepfather to my mother's daughter, and he raised her ever since she was 3. And so my father was a hard man in terms of he abused substances such as alcohol and things of that nature. My father was an extremely mad man. He was mad a lot. So a lot of times what I learned from him was more so of things probably not to do. He told me a lot of what I couldn't be as opposed to building me up. But what I
Mm,
realized was that in him doing that, what he was trying to do was prepare me for a world that I would need this stuff. So that's probably why it's so hard to break me now. And that's why I continue to push, because of if my father couldn't break me, then what do you think that you can do? So from that standpoint, I learned from him. He was a good man in terms of he was always there, he was ever present. And I'll always love him and appreciate what he did give me because he gave me the best of him. And he's still, to me, a better man than I have been. So I still have a lot to live up to because to me, he has been a better man than me. But I learned a lot from the guys in prison. To answer your question, Restaurant Diamonds, they liked me, so they took me under their wing because they saw I had heart and I would listen. So they began to give me books to read. They gave me things like Black Man Know Thyself with Carter G. Woodson and Machiavelli, and they gave me books and they taught me things and they set me down. So they didn't give out a lot. So that's probably why I tend to love to sit at the feet of those who have been there. I did a video on that too, SB. Maybe Western Diamonds, you should see that one because I went off in that video. I'm being a gentleman now, but these things bother me because it's like, what do you mean we are the only community that will not sit at the feet of the elders and get the information. It's amazing to me. So that would be my response to that.
Yeah,
Hey,
I say,
what is your hold on real quick. What is your channel?
7 Mile, yes, 7
Remind
Mile
also-
Awesome Dre.
let me put it in the description. That's I'm gonna pull it up here and I'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah.
That's it,
Nah,
'cause-
I
so
go off Western Dominance now. You know, I'm not a.
oh, man, we good.
Okay.
We good. We
Hey, don't worry about it. I know plenty of people in the streets. Don't let the certain tide fool you.
You know, I'm saying because I go off because because when I call them white devils, and I do call them white devils on my channel, because that's what I believe you are. And when I say that, I mean the system. I don't mean all white people as a whole, because we know that would be inappropriate to say that. But when I'm talking about the people that are directly responsible for keeping my people subservient and our relationship is only beneficial as long as I'm subservient to you. Absolutely, you're a white devil, and I hate your guts, and I'm on you, and I'm on you, and I'm gonna call you on every opportunity I get.
I want to here. Let me know next time you go live. I want to jump on one of those with you.
Oh, I don't have a. I'm new to this. When I say I'm new, I only been up 2 months. I think I only got 80 subscribers or something.
That doesn't matter, brother. That doesn't matter. That's awesome.
And anytime I'm up live, you are always welcome to come on here, 7 Mile Straight. You are always welcome on this panel.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I want to also answer your question here. When I say I'm an outlier, I know that I'm an outlier because, I like Dre. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I grew up with both my parents. So my dad, he gave me a lot of information, right? And I'm not gonna put out all of his business. One day I'm gonna have him on. He told me that he will come on with me one day. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna sit there, we're gonna talk. It's gonna be a hard talk with your parents, because he's very honest about a lot of stuff, even issues that he had in his past. But he was able to sit there and give me a lot of knowledge growing up. There's a lot of things that I use to this day that I got from my dad, and especially in dealing with people, and also in networking and whatnot, that I got from my dad. The other thing that my dad was not, he was not egotistical to the point where it's like, hey, I can't. There's nobody else who's going to teach him. He told me something that he got from his dad, from my grandfather, which is sometimes somebody's going to say something to your kids, and they're going to, it's going to be the exact same thing that you said, but they're going, for whatever reason, they're going to get it from. It's going to get sound down on them and get into them better with somebody else telling them than what it is. He said it's going to hurt your feelings, but it's something that's going to happen. I have to remember that when I have my son, right? And one of the things that happened when I moved out of the home, so I had we talked a little bit about guys on the block, guys in the neighborhood, growing up and dropping knowledge on, even on how to go about, like you talking about the hustling mindset, on how to sit there. Oh, you trying to get that? Okay, well, you make sure that you do X, Y, and Z as you're doing it. That would do that in a financial aspect of it. I remember and even when I came down here to Houston, I lived in the YMCA, and it's interesting to me that if you get a place where there's a bunch of men congregating, whether it be in black men congregate, whether it's in jail, whether it's at the Y or wherever, they are always willing to impart knowledge on young black men. A lot of times it's just young black men, we don't want to hear it. And one of the things, because I had my dad and my uncles and all of them growing up, I always knew how to sit down, shut my mouth, and listen. So so long as I was hustling and getting out there every morning, I was out there grinding, trying to find a job. I had several of the men who were there YMCA, like you talking about the things about marriage, the things that I failed at in marriage. I can't say that I failed at them because I wasn't told, and to me that's important. I had several guys that were there at the Y that they were there because they were restarting their lives because they had failed marriages, and they told me and one dude in particular. I don't want to mention his name without asking him his permission first, because I want to give him credit because he schooled me on several of things, but there were several things within my life that have happened in my marriage that was almost exactly the way that he described within his own, and the exact same mistakes that he made. I made a lot of those same ones, not because I wasn't told, but because I thought I knew better, right? So it wasn't that I didn't get the knowledge or that they didn't drop or spend the time with the young man. We had another young man who was there at the Y at the time when I was there, who had just got out of prison. He did something when he was in juvie, and then going up, and he went into the adult prison as for a hot minute before he ended up getting released. But he came on out, and all those brothers there who were doing something were always encouraging him and trying to tell him on better ways on how to go about doing things. And for the most part, he listened. And as I said, he was able to do a lot better and get himself out of the YMCA like all of us were at that point who were getting out, but they were telling you, okay, well, don't do this, don't do that, or do this, do that. Financially, you might want to do this or do that with your money, right? Here's some things I did. I say, and then there's like even how you go about it's like not to have the microwave approach that we have in our generation or these generations coming up have a crock pot approach to how you're going to approach life. He says you can get it fast. It says, and it's going to be a quick dollar that you're going to get, but you're not going to hold as a, by the time you go in and come back out, you have made the same amount as the guy who as it was just plodding along slow. Like, so to answer your question, the outlier for me is that I've had a bunch of men in my life over the course of my life that have been there, that if I was willing to listen to these elders, that they sat down and they actually were there in order to deliver it. It's whether or not we find, when you find these brothers, or if these brothers are there, do we appreciate them and do we take in the knowledge that they're giving us? Within at least that was my experience. Did I take it in? A lot of times, a lot of the young kids was like, nah, they don't know what they're talking about. And they'll tell you it's like, or look at, they fell down. It's like, yeah, they fell down, and they're telling you how not to make the same mistakes they made, right? Here's where I'm screwed up. This is where I made this mistake at. Don't do this like I did it. And if you're willing to listen to it, it works. But if you look at it like, nah, you ain't got nothing. Old boy over here, he got that caddy with that candy paint on it, blah, 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 right? If you're in that mindset, then yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and you're not going to sit there and you're not I think that a lot of young people, I don't know why, we have all this time ahead of us, but because we don't understand how time works, and we know that we've lived almost half our life in 5 years or whatever, we don't take their knowledge and we don't appreciate it. That's been my experience. I don't know.
Interesting. Thank you both for sharing your anecdotes. I'm just thinking while both y'all sharing your personal anecdotes and stories, and it's just y'all were actually the fortunate ones. You know, a person such as myself, I wasn't fortunate. You know, the '80s crack epidemic took out my dad. You know, so I didn't have anybody. You know, and yeah, and for me, I had to learn the hard way, and so I had to come up with pimps. You know, trying to get information from them, get information from other people, getting information from my older brothers. You know, and when it came down time to, I don't know what the heck what I'm doing. And nobody's explaining. People just telling you, hey, don't do this, without explaining the why.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very important to explain the why when people say don't do this, or this is the reason why you shouldn't do this. And thus that's the reason why we need to get back to that. I want to call it kind of like Garveyism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, hey, we're all gonna believe something different. Let's just believe in something that we have in common, which is pretty much the extinction. You know, we're being picked off one by one, family by family. Whenever prevailing forces is able to break up the family, that's already a death, or somebody's going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And thus a death. And knowing how this system works, is we've been in the system now for over quite some time, and now we're in the age of information. There's no excuse now. There's no excuse. There's no excuses anymore, and it is time. It's time for us to put down whatever it is. I was like, hey, we already know what drugs do. We already know. We already know what this single motherhood ship does. We already know what the person that's an unwilling father is doing. It's just too much information out there. And matter of fact, what I think it is too much information out there, because of nobody knows what to believe now. But at the end of the day, it all goes down to our first teachers, and we have to make sure our first teachers are in line.
Yeah.
And if our first teachers aren't in line, because they're the main ones who teach culture and actually raise our civilization, they're always pointing at each other. I don't know what's going to happen, but that sisterhood needs to be restored.
We need to figure out how to get that sisterhood restored, and we need to figure out how to get this brotherhood restored. We need to figure out how to support each other within
The,
our community. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, because I actually asked like other races of people, like, hey, what do you think about black people? Just this says men will we actually have a code, and we will actually look after each other. He said, but the women are always backstabbing, and all the negative connotations about our race is actually coming through them. Like they have nice. She said and he said nice things, and these are. I asked Hispanic couple, I asked Asian couple, and there are three types of Asians. You know, Korean, Indian Asian, and Chinese Asian, and they told us what the real was. And then after that, I asked the African couple, hey, what do you think about us Americans? And after that, I asked the Caribbean, I said, hey, what do you think about the American indigenous black males here? Or, I mean, the indigenous black people here in America. And it was like a consensus, like, hey, the men work hard. Not all of them are gangsters, but that's just what's being portrayed in TV. But the women, like what's portrayed on TV, that's kind of like how they are, and like that made me sad.
Well, you know it'll make you really sad then, because there's a study. I'm gonna send it to you. Then there was not a study, a survey that was done, and the most hated or despised individuals on yeah, say within society right now are black women, and it is their image is bad as well, just like our image is bad as black men. And so our community, like I said, but they are as far as liked, they are the least liked, the most despised, the least liked among all, and they are the most villainized among all of us.
But then again, most idolized as well.
Well, that's true too. But I'm saying, as far as most imitated, I'll put it that way. Most people don't want to be black. They would like to have black women features, but they don't want to have black women characteristics. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Did a video on that too. Yes, facts.
Yeah,
perfect. Well said.
Yeah, because like I said, they want to look as they'll. I used to tell I would tell my daughters this all the time because they would didn't like the hair or didn't like this skin. I'm like, do you realize that everything about you, everybody else wants to be? They perm their hair so they can have their hair like yours. They put dead people's skin in their lips so they can have lips like yours. They want to have your skin color, so they spend time out in the sun so they can have skin color toned like yours. They want to have their skin smooth like yours, right? They want to have their bottoms shaped like yours. They were like, all of these things that you're sitting there, you're abhorring or you're not liking about yourself. Those are beautiful traits and characteristics that you don't realize that everybody else is trying to emulate, but you don't appreciate within yourselves. And I don't know how else to get black women to appreciate themselves for the beauty that they actually have, because everybody loves to look like black women. Not everybody wants to be like black women. Let me see what Gospel News is saying. He says, I'm a ghost, but their attitude, that's fact, not fiction. Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying one way or the other. What I am saying is that they did a study on it or a survey on it, and that's what came out of it. And say, I'm not going to give my anecdotal experience of it, but I will say that is definitely what came out of it.
That's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, Western Diamonds. Go ahead. I'll
go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Respectfully, I'll tell you, brothers. As rough as it is, I've learned in my life, and I tell black men on my channel a lot of. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. A lot of brothers want to live in a world where they're not. A lot of brothers are not realistic. Let me just say that. And I think a lot of black men are looking at things for the way they want them to be instead of what they are. I'm gonna tell you, brothers, what I believe. I think that we're alone. I think that our women have totally turned on us. Not all of them, but I believe more than majority. I believe that maybe, and if I were to give you brothers a number, I would probably say 70% of our women are not on our side anymore. They have They have completely turned on us. So I believe that black men are alone in this wilderness of North America. Clearly, we know we never had help from, from our oppressors, and nor do I expect any from them. But when our women turned on us, I think it's time that we understand these things, and I think it's time that we start to really, really, because I don't know how you brothers see this, and I'm interested to hear. Maybe you can give me something to bring some hope back into me. But I think that black women have irrevocably turned on us, at least this generation. I really believe that.
Why do you say that?
Well, let me before you hop on Western
Yeah.
Drums, what I will say is this.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with, we talked about determination or being determined earlier. You said that you were too stupid. I said you're too determined.
Yes.
For me, I'm in that situation where when it comes to black women, I'm just determined to not, like, I agree with you. All the evidence that I see says that our women have turned on us, right?
Yes.
But I would love for us to have a situation with our women where we, as a, for our both our women and for us as men, that we know that as we're going through this thing, that we're gonna have to do it together. And I think sometimes where we're looking for our women, like in the clubs and probably in the churches, that some of those women just aren't, as a, they've grown up and they've been indoctrinated or enculturated to think these are the things that they need to have. But as black men, I say part of it also is us, where I think that we have, like you mentioned, Western Thomas, you mentioned earlier about sometimes some of us not wanting to take responsibility as fathers for our kids that we bring into this world, and black women many times not wanting to deal with black men on, like I said, on a realistic basis of the fact that most black men are not going to be these wealthy white men that they're looking for, and most black men are not going to be able to provide that status of life that they want right off the bat. And if you understand that, and if you appreciate that you're dealing with a black man, then I think that at that point, being, like, say, if all of us are a little more realistic on what it actually is, and I don't think that, like I said, the same thing that you said about young black men, I think that a lot of young black women, they bought into the lie, and they think that only thing, as a, that they can have all of these things when it's not really a fact. And it's one of those things that, as we're having this conversation, understanding and being able to see it and to see that we do better together than apart. And let me read these two comments before you jump on this for me. Let's see. We have D Law Tween. It says, "How would you explain this to your daughters? Uh, how would you explain this to your daughters was beautiful. Every person on earth should start to appreciate the unique beauty as you have. Start with our children." I would agree with you. Start with your children. And then Matthew Juma says, "I agree." All right, now I'm turning this back over to you, brothers.
What was your question, Westradamus? Well said, SB. What you
Yeah, you said like you said about 70% of black women have turned their back on us. I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, what was, like, how'd you got to that number?
Okay, that's a great question. Kind of, I will probably say kind of similar like you brothers. I'm able to observe and just the way I see the things I hear, the my own experiences, the 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 way that's just the way things are leads me to know that more women have been westernized, and they have decided to go with the government. They have decided that they don't need black men, and they only need us to produce children, and they need us for our phallus and our finances. And if we don't provide one or the other, preferably both, then we don't have much value other than that. And so that 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 but here's the thing though. I'll tell you, here's my shining hope in that. My the reason that gives me hope is that, like I tell black men, this is what you brothers need to do. Work on building yourself up. Because if you brothers build yourself up, then everything you want, the doors will open. And so, yes, they're not going to help us build anything. Let me just say this, Westradamus. I don't believe that black women are going to help us reclaim our masculinity. I don't believe that they are going to be a part of the solution to help us. I believe that once we get there, they're going to jump on the bandwagon. And that's just what I believe. I don't think that they're interested in helping us build our community, and they're not interested in the groundwork. I just, everything that I see on the numbers wise says says it's against us in that regard.
Okay, so let me answer this real fast because I'm going to say I agree with you that they don't want to do the work. Anecdotally that has been statement.
Okay.
However, what I will say is that they have to be on to do the work for us to succeed. And the reason why is what Westradamus stated initially, and what you also stated initially, is that the first teachers that we have as men in our communities are our women.
Yes.
Right. So even if you take it back to old caveman days, if you don't believe in a spiritual as a start or spiritual existence, even then, while the men are out hunting and gathering, the women are being pregnant, bringing the children along, and so that they're birthing the children. From any perspective on how you look at it, our women have to be a part of the solution to the issues with the Black community, right? We, we cannot have a solution that does not involve them, because if they're not involved, that's our first teachers. Those are the people that start off that part of culture within all of us, right? If our women are not involved and our women are not invested within our community, and if we can't figure out how to get our women on board, then our community does not succeed. That's a if they're the first, if they're who you're going to get this from primarily, then we need to be able to make sure that our sisters are on board.
Yes, completely agree. I believe I know one thing that we need is overall revamp in our education.
Mm-hmm.
We need education on the child support system and the relation to the child support system, because you have to understand it's a $1 billion industry.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that the woman is not getting what she's supposed to get, because it goes through, because when the judge says, okay, you have to pay $800 or $1,000 a month, or the woman is not getting $1,000. She's probably getting about like 100, because that's paying the judge salary. It's paying the housing. Yeah, it's paying the food stamps. And then other services and health and human services is paying the governor, so all that money is actually paying something else. And then the woman gets like the $150, and then she turns around and says, oh, I ain't getting nothing from you. But the man's like, well, I'm paying $1,000 or $800 every month, so therefore everybody loses in the situation. And I've seen it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because whenever you deal with it and you're going through and they get into payments and it goes through for here in the state of Texas, going through the Secretary of State and going through that process, definitely they're not seeing that money. If you get public assistance, like in Florida, if you get public assistance, then it goes through and the government takes their money out, which is more than what you're probably getting in public assistance. And the mother a lot of times doesn't even get to see the money, and she's calling him a deadbeat dad that he's not participating and not providing anything when he's like you said, he's paying $1,000 a month or whatever it is that level is that he's supposed to be paying, or that percentages that he's supposed to be paying. So a lot of times when you're looking at it, it's like I said, it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry wherein they began to take out the money first. They take theirs and they don't worry about anything else. Let me get these two comments really fast. I apologize if this is what I want to get. Why I interrupted you. I want to get these two comments, but Gospel News says, I don't feel that I think they are looking for something for nothing. They want the dream, but don't want the work to get the dream. I definitely agree with that. Okay. That's been
I disagree with that.
Anecdotal experience. Okay. Then let me read these two. It's more than beauty. What do they bring to the table besides beauty? I agree with that one as well, because that's like I'm not looking for beauty at this point. Once a family's in court, the family is dead. I see that as well. So you said you disagree. What do you give me what you disagree on? I'm definitely curious on that one.
Well, when you're saying that the woman doesn't want to do the work, I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because the rise of boss chicks, the rise of
that's what you're saying.
The women being the most educated woman on the face of this planet, our group of women are the most highly paid group of women. So when you're saying that they don't want to do the work, maybe you might want to say they just don't want to do the work with
Uh,
you or with us.
or they don't
You
want to
know,
do the work of family. As
yeah,
I
within the
agree.
family, yeah.
Because now that you said that, because one of the things somebody's been pushing out there for a long time that women don't like STEM, like science, technology, the education, math, or engineering and math fields. But what was interesting to me is that, like in Cuba, majority of the doctors and the teachers in the medical schools down there are women. When you go someplace like the Philippines, most of the nurses who are in the STEM fields over there are going to be female, right? And there's all these different fields where you can watch women that are jumping in STEM fields that they're willing to do the work in these STEM fields. So I would say that here in the Americas, like I always put that caveat, in the Americas or here in Western society, women don't like STEM. Why that is, I don't know. But in some of these other countries, women do like STEM. What's the difference? I can't tell you what it is. I can just tell you that it is. And maybe it's something that we need to explore a little more and trying to get that understanding of what needs to change in order to get that process working.
And two things I just want to add. Um, Being in North America, for anybody who hasn't traveled, go travel.
I agree.
Because being in North America, you have to understand we are on Krypton. You know, whenever we go anywhere else in the world, we're Superman. Everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, oh you're American," you know, everything. So I always say, "Hey, travel, get that confidence," because the one thing that we are not raised with is high self-esteem.
Well said.
You know, and
Well
I
said.
believe that I think that needs to be fixed. Number one, and that self-esteem is due to lack of information. And in this world, as older you get, you understand that this whole world is all about information and the lack of information.
That
Because a lot of times that we did bad or made the worst decision, it was about we acted on bad information. So this is a whole information game, because as soon as you get good information, um, just like Awesome Dre got great information from being incarcerated. Okay, all those gentlemen putting information on you. With you, Mr. Black, Savior Black, hey, your dad putting that information on you. Imagine if you didn't have all that good information on you, what knucklehead decisions you would have made.
I agree. As if I didn't have my pops, if I didn't have my uncles, if I didn't have those men sitting up there, those strong, like I said, all throughout my life, I've had a lot of strong black men, and it's not that they were like the richest, like they had the most money or whatever else. Like being taught, one of the men telling me, "Work it like you own it." Cause I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna." He's like, "No, you work it like you own it." He said, "Because one day you will own something." He says, "And this is what the type of effort you need." So it's like I agree with that. And give me 1 minute. Let me read these 3 comments here. Let's see. We have from Gospel News. It says we are victims of the system, which we are. I say we're talking about how do we get solutions besides just being the victim. I agree with you there. That says they don't want to work as a unit. So then we need to move on. I don't think that we can't, but I agree with you on what we're talking. But you know what? Actually,
I disagree with that.
you actually sat there and changed my mind on that one a moment ago. That's not the case for all of us. I say so. When I say anecdotally, these have been my experiences. I say, but at the same time, I like I said, what you stated as far as the experiences of looking at what these women are doing and the ones that we're probably dealing with, right? So if your only thing is like, oh, but she
Bad
bad,
information.
yeah, it's like, but she bad though. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna tell on myself. Let me tell on myself.
Yeah.
Give me a hot minute. I'm gonna tell on myself here for you brothers.
Story time.
Yeah. Me and my sister one time we were sitting down and we were talking about choosing a mate, and I was talking about the mistakes I made in choosing my mate, and all the different things
Preach.
and we laughed about it because one of the things that we talked about is like if my mom were like back in like some cultures they have what do you call it with God, what's the term that I'm using for the marriage that are has a pre or arranged marriages.
Right.
We're talking about having an arranged marriage. Like, would you want to have my mom sit there and pick a woman for you. And we start joking like, oh no, because a woman probably wouldn't be that hot and she wouldn't be that, she would be somebody with a really good personality. And my sister's like, yeah, so the guy would be somebody who would treat me good, but he wouldn't be that hot, probably would da-da-da. And then we start laughing after we start talking about it, because look at us, here we are, we're talking, and we're talking really superficially, and we're saying that, and we just like killed our whole argument, because we just said our mother would look for somebody with qualities that would be beneficial to us besides the superficial that we would look at for just, I want the hottest thing. She would actually look for something for us, because we were laughing and stuff. Oh no, you wouldn't want mama to get what she has the person would have a great personality. She would sit there, be somebody who would actually sit there, want to be a wife. She would be like all subservient and ready to work with you as a man, and da 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 da. Yeah, she wouldn't pick somebody who's gonna be hot and all, but he's gonna be sit there, somebody who has to have a job, who's gonna sit there and make sure he provides and make sure that he da 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 da. And after we finished talking about it, I'm literally like, that's just superficial what you said. She said, well, you just I'm thinking, I'm like, you're right. I said, we just railed against what it is our parents would look for us, and what we don't want. And because in this Western culture, we get to pick who it is we're going to be with. And then all of a sudden, it's like we realize that what we're picking is wrong, and what our parents was picking, or what our parents would look for us, is what we actually should be looking for, but we're not looking for it at that age.
Well said.
Yeah. So, and sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes we get in our own way. But I said, when do you guys want to do this one again? I said, because I'm just looking at, I just realized what time it is.
Well, I'm on your stream, brother. So whenever I see my man SB, I see Savior Black, I'm always tuning in. I've sent it. I'm gonna send this content to more people, because you absolutely deserve more views. And you know what I'm saying? That you extremely intelligent, brother. And it's just always a pleasure, man, to be here with black men. A lot of people, I get a couple emails every now and then. People call me racist and this, that, and that. I say, it's funny that you call me a racist when I don't have any power in this country. Racism is about access and power, dummy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The guy with a GED know that. I could never be racist. I can be prejudiced. I can never be racist. But who cares about what I think? You know what I'm saying? I don't got no power. But I'm for black men. I want to see black men do well. I want to see black men achieve the heights that you know what I mean, that their predecessors wanted. And if you think that makes me against, somebody else because I love black men, because I don't really deal with other issues, then think what you want to think, man. I'm for my people, man. I'm for black men, and that's where I'm at with it.
I'm here with you. I'm here 100% with what you just said. Has a pro-black all the way. Has a, what can we do in order to get our community? Like you said, solution oriented. I'm telling you, brothers, right now, like I said, on the legal front, there's two things that I am working on right now for our solutions. And anything that you guys come up with as far as additional things that we can work as far as solutions, let me know. I say I want to get on board as many solutions that we can get out there. There's some things I'm thinking about, because I don't want to just focus on just the voting cycle. I think the voting cycle is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not, but I think that there's a lot of work for us to do as far as within our communities and on ourselves that we can do between those 2 and 4 year periods, that as we're trying to sit there and get our communities better. And I'm really interested in what you brothers been talking about, because you guys gave me a lot to think about as far as within the black family. Because the reality is, like I said, we're going to need our sisters on board. And how do we get our sisters on board? And how do we recognize these are the type of sisters that we want, as opposed to the ones that everybody keeps pointing at and saying that this is what you want? Because that was the other thing that, as we've been talking, one of the things that you guys also highlighted for me today is sometimes maybe we're getting in our own way on what it is we've been taught to want within a sister, and what we're looking for, as opposed to what the actual beneficial sisters that are out there that would actually work with us in order to make sure that we keep our family strong and our community strong. So now you guys got me putting some stuff together. I'm gonna put another live on, and we're gonna see if we can do something where we can try and start getting some of our sisters in here to start talking about some of these issues with us.
Oh, SB, don't do that.
Nah, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about trying to get them in here in order to take over, because obviously, like,
you know what they always like to do? Trying to tell black men how to be masculine and what you need. Man, shut up. Nobody cares nothing about you. Be nice, man.
Are you trying to say we're gonna have another Will and Jada where she gonna sit there and give the eye roll, which is
that's what I'm trying to say. SB, listen, us black men. I you know what, SB, and I always ask this question. This is always my question when guys have these women panels. what other race of men go to women and ask them what it is and what isn't manly? What does what? No other race of men do that.
Because that's not, you're not going to get masculine from women. I say we have a whole we have a whole generation of, I say, where women, we complain, our black women, they're complaining about the quality of men that are out there, and what they're not saying is that they raised that quality of man, right? All these single sisters, all these single families, that quality of man, that's who they raised. And these are all men who are, a lot of men who were raised by their mother. I say, and I'm not talking about you, Westradamus. I'm not talking ill on you. That I say, I just realized.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
That might come out like I'm taking a shot, and I'm not taking a shot.
Oh, no. We family.
I say, because as I sometimes, like, you start talking, all of a sudden some kind of your mouth's like, damn, that came out wrong.
SB.
Yeah.
This has to be said, and these women are, listen, it's not our fault that these women pick on. They pick the Pookies and Ray Rays and them. They don't want they say whatever they want. This is why I tell brothers, don't listen to women because they're fickle. You know what I'm saying? Don't listen to them, because what they're telling you what they want is really not what they want. Black men have to worry about themselves, building themselves up. And what happens is, when you're able to achieve the success, then you get the power. And then you say, hey, listen, this is what it's going to take for you to be in my world. Do you submit or don't you? And if she doesn't want to get on your program, then that's all good with that too. Nobody begging these women to do nothing. We ain't doing all of that. Black men building us up over here.
I hear you.
It's nice. It's nice that you say that, but you know, we just have to disseminate new information or updated information. Hey, wife is a title. It's a job title. You know, exactly. Hey, if you do not have a cookbook, all right, you're not qualified to be a wife.
Well, shout out to Kevin Samuels. Great point.
Yes, you're not qualified. You know, like I'm sorry, you're not. You know, because how are you supposed to feed the kids? You know, so but outside of that, you know, like, hey, it is good to get input because of, you know, other people can see your system and try to fine tune your system and things like that. But at the end of the day, we need our women, and I love our women. I think there's nobody better, and nothing's more powerful whenever you see a couple in our community making moves.
I do agree with. I saw a black man, y'all, not to interject, but at the Waffle House, black man, probably mid-40s, black woman, 2 black daughters and a black son. I got up and shook his hand. They did something good to me. Both of them did something good to me. So I do agree with that. That definitely has its power.
Yeah, I say, and before we cut out of here tonight, because I'm gonna have to get some things done. I'm trying to get these 2 other videos done that are similar to the one I did today, but they're dealing with one I did watch, that your Deshaun Watson one I essayed, and I'm doing another one on that one. But let me read these 2 comments, or actually 3 comments here. Let's see. We have my mom gave great advice. I just didn't listen, from Gospel News here. Let's see. And then we have another one from him. It's like, if they're not working with us, what is their benefit? That is the problem. Order. Sisters don't respect order. They feel they're the head. And then the last one here, we have other races of men don't have this problem.
Yes, they do.
Most notably, if you're going to say that the other race of men that are not listed as having that problem, because if you're looking at the charts by divorces or unmarried, I should pull that up as we're talking about it. But by divorces and everything, a lot of other races do have that problem. Probably the one that has the least, the one statistically that has the least, that's least likely, or that does not have that problem to the same extent that we do, would be Asians. But white men definitely have it.
White men definitely.
All of them. Everybody has it. It's just for us, it's the only thing that has been marketed. It's like, oh, dysfunction. Oh, but like, just like white food cake is angel cake, black food people's devil cake. Everything negative gets put on people called so-called black. You know, anything black you look up, it's something negative. So of course we're going to attract all the negative and be programmed to do everything that's negative and market that as being good. You know, so at the end of the day, I'm just not for that lens look. It's like, oh, it's only black people who's going through that. No, it's everybody. No, everybody has problems. It's just we just have the black lens on it. say, oh, it's only us, but really, when you really look at the macro perspective, all right, like, have you looked up like the population? You know that there, certain races of people actually have negative birth rates.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, have you looked that up? Is that a black person? Is that a black person problem or anything like that? A black people problem? No, it's not. So like people just trying to cut things and try to fit their narrative when that's not really the case, and a lot of things like with our lens, it needs to be updated to 2022 because a lot of us we're still living in the 1950s, 1960s, and whenever like, hey, this is a new day, this is a new era, and we need to stop being emotional, not emotional, but emotional about things.
I
All
didn't get
right,
it.
yeah, we're being emotional.
He emotional. I'm gonna have to remember that one.
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
stealing that
Yeah,
from you. You know that, right?
it's all good, man. Hey, you heard from me first, though. Yeah, but yeah, we're being emotional about things, and yeah, it's great that we're talking about it, and it's great that we're talking about these solutions. But everything is all in the implementation. Where, of course, we're old enough where we can understand it, but the question is, how can we penetrate the new market? No, right now, well, we're the old cars. The only way that people are gonna start listening to us is if we become classics.
Yeah.
So we have to turn ourselves into being classics, so therefore people will start listening to us. Otherwise, we're just gonna be just that jalopy on the side of the street, and people are not gonna pay any attention to us unless they're broke down and need a ride.
Everybody's like,
So,
I don't need that. I want to have the nice car. You're not the nice car.
yeah. No, just like us whenever we're younger. Okay, old dude over here, old head over here trying to tell us a little something. Okay, all right, we ain't trying to listen, or mom's trying to tell us something, we're not trying to listen, but 50 Cent says this, or Tupac says this. No, you have to start being that classic car.
Yeah.
So therefore people will come to us for the information instead of anybody else. That's the reason why Kevin Samuels, he's the big wake up call. He's the Claxton. It's like, hey, everybody start listening, and it's a great thing that people are updating their thinking to a 21st century type thinking. And the old ways is great, but it's always have to update it. We
I
have to
agree.
update our thinking and
Yeah.
update our message because of, like, don't get me wrong, Black Power and all that stuff is great. I love it. Or the white man trying to hold us down, things like that is great. It resonates, but it's not reaching the younger generation.
I agree.
And then whenever we're trying to indoctrinate our younger generation with that same thinking, in essence, we're putting the victim mentality back on them instead of, that's the catch-22. And we need to stop being victims in this system. And now it's time for us to, as hey, we've been in the system long enough. It's time to weaponize the system against itself, and so therefore that it will, in essence, collapse.
I agree. We're not I remember Dr. Claude Anderson. He made a point about at around the time that he said 2015, but around this time that we're gonna be, we're gonna lose power on what it is that we were trying to accomplish if we didn't get ourselves together. And we have passed that 2015. We're in 2022, and a lot of other things that he talked about as far as stat wise on why that would happen is actually kind of fruition. And I made a statement earlier. I just want to back up what I stated on that number as far as the Asians, on why I stated that. I don't know if you can see my screen here, but it was going Black married, Hispanic married, white married, and then Asian married. And they have a higher marital rate. They also have a lower rate of never been married. And with the exception, they're widowed, but as far as divorce, they have the lowest divorce rate here as well. So, and the lowest separated, or one of the lowest separated rates here. And this was from 2019. And again, you can see where it came from, the blackdemographics.com, which pulled it from that 2019 census. But as I agree with you that we're all having issues, I just wish there was a way for us to sit there and to make this number similar to what this number is for them within our communities. That's what I'm looking for. At least try and get us, like you said, get it so that these young kids will start listening to us like, hey, this is what we need to be at for our communities. But personal opinion, as I'm trying to figure out how we can get there. And I agree with both of you brothers on that.
Indeed. Hey man, I'm about to get on out of here, man.
All right, and I'm gonna talk to you guys later. So I guess let me call it a night for everybody, and I appreciate everybody for joining in. Let me make sure I don't miss any of these chats here before I cut out. Let's see, do we have anything here that I missed? Last one that I'm gonna put: white and black is the same because we're following them. I don't know if I want to say we're the same. Obviously, we got to say when I just showed you the stats, but I will say that white and black as far as well, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm gonna have to think about that one a little more. Gospel news. But with that, I'm gonna tell you, brothers, I say I appreciate everybody for being here tonight with us, and we're gonna cut out at this point. And if I didn't tell you before, I love you, and hope that your day is going great, and may you always, always, always have peace in your life. And with that, we're gonna call it a night. Be blessed, brothers.
Yes, sir. Peace to the chat.
Peace.